let me go ahead and welcome everyone to the meeting this morning. My name is Mac Williams, and I am president of the Alamance Chamber. It's my pleasure to have all of you here this morning and participating in this business briefing with HR-related issues. My colleague here at the Chamber, Andrea Fleming, our existing industry services person, has worked to pull together some experts in the field that we're going to have talk to us today about the things that we might all need to be thinking about as we take ourselves and our employees through this process. And so I'm just going to turn it over to Andrea to introduce our panel of speakers and MC the event. And in the meantime, Reagan, Garrell, and myself will try to manage your questions, which you can offer up through chat box. Of course, you can unmute yourself and ask a question that way. We also have info@alamancechamber.com, which is a really discreet way to ask a question if you'd like to do it that way. So lots of ways to provide input and ask questions. I will say that everyone there may or may not be members of the press on the call, and that's fine if they aren't. But I just want to remind everyone that that is possible, and also that this meeting is being recorded,
Mac is muted.
And it won't let me unmute him.
Did I just mute myself?
Yes.
Oops, sorry. I don't know what you missed, but we're going to turn it over to Andrea, and she can introduce the speakers and welcome everybody. Thank the speakers for their time this morning.
Well, good morning, everyone. I see a couple of faces, but lots of names that I recognize. I'm glad so many people have been able to join this morning. Reagan, you or Mac have the waiting room while I'm talking? Okay, thanks. We still have a few people joining. We have Hal Bates and Charles Lopez and Brenda Leggett with us this morning. I'm going to turn it over to them to kind of introduce themselves, give a little bit about their background and their company, so you have an idea of who kind of has which types of expertise. We do have a couple of questions to fill in case there aren't any from the group on this morning. But if you do have a question, type it in the chat bar. We can try to do some audio questions if it's something that is a little bit more complicated that you'd rather speak than try to type. Let me know that, and we can unmute you for that. But right now, I will turn it over to Brenda first to introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her company, and her role with the Human Resources Association.
Thank you, Andrea. My name is Brenda Leggett, and I am the staffing manager of Prime Personnel Resources in Burlington. I have been here for 10 years on staff. We are a local staffing agency here in Alamance County in the same shopping center as K&W, if anybody knows where that is. Brady Perkins is our owner. And we have spent 21 years serving the companies in this county and doing hiring for them on a staffing side of things for their business. A lot of manufacturing companies, a lot of distribution centers and warehouses, and we just have had a large number of support for businesses of that here in the county, and so that is what we do. I also serve and have the honor of serving as the president of the Alamance County Human Resources Association. I have been on that board for 9 years in various roles, and have the honor of serving as their president this year. I also have had the honor of serving on the Alamance Chamber Board, and was their vice chair of marketing and communications, I believe back in 2016. So time definitely flies. So thank you for allowing me to be a participant on this call, and for being here, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, Brenda. Charles, do you want to take a minute to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Charles Lopez. I'm originally from Miami, Florida. Originally a school administrator, and then with life changing at home and realizing there were some challenges or more responsibilities with kids, my own kids, I decided to go ahead and take a change in career. And HR was one of those platforms that has transferable skill sets. I specialize mostly in change management and crisis management. So companies would hire me to focus on some change and transitions and how to do that in a most effective and peaceful way possible. And so I've been here in this community with Lust for Gas Cylinders for a year now. I've been in Raleigh, North Carolina area for about 2 years. So I've been up here and just enjoying the warm weather and the lack of beaches and just trying to get acclimated. But thank you so much for this time. I look forward to answering some of your questions in the best way I know possible.
Good. Thank you, Charles. Hal?
Yes, my name is Hal Bates. I'm an HR certified professional. I've spent most of my career with Glen Raven, but recently I'm now working with HRD Strategies, which is an HR consulting firm. And we do everything from basic HR with policies and handbooks to moving up to executive coaching. We do investigations for people, whether that's for harassment or people that are not acting right. We'll do investigations, and we'll do some focused executive recruiting for people that are looking for some higher level positions. Where my clients have been coming to me during all this crisis have been in several areas. We've worked a lot with people trying to help them figure out how to handle furloughs, how to do salary reductions, how to cut hours, in order to manage costs there. I was a safety director at Glen Raven for 10 years, so people have come to me with OSHA questions. What do you do if somebody contracts COVID or has COVID-19 in the workforce? This Zoom technology is new to a lot of us. I've been using this for most of the year and have worked with a lot of people to help them make the most use out of the Zoom technology. Working from home, we've helped people there to be better managers there. But most of all, what we've been working on is we're going to get through this, and how do we get back to the new normal, and what do we need to do to prepare ourselves for that long road? So that's where we've been spending our time.
Great, thank you, Hal. I think all of those things that that you just shared about the questions that you're seeing, I would think a lot of people on the call are having those same concerns. I think the big thing now, I know my calls from companies and my emails from companies have leveled off a little bit this week, and I think more of the questions I've been getting are about that. What is the new normal going to look like? Definitely had some inquiries about PPE and safety. Anyone on the call having any issues in pushback about PPE, about requiring face coverings if you are coming into work? So I know there are a lot of manufacturing companies that are continuing to be operational right now, but making some changes. Hal, have you had anyone come to you with any of those questions about changes in things they need to do for safety regulations right now?
Well, I think a lot of it is common sense, what we're seeing out there. You've got to maintain the social distancing. You've got to make sure that your surfaces are clean and free of contamination. You need to prepare your workplace so you minimize any transfer of that. And I'll go ahead and jump into the question I've been getting. If somebody gets the coronavirus at my workplace, is that considered a recordable? And the way I'm answering that, the first person in your workplace that gets the coronavirus, that is not considered a recordable. But the second person that gets the coronavirus in your workplace, it could be recordable. it could have occurred, of course, from their home life, but if there's the potential that they could have gotten at work, then the managers have to decide whether that's recordable or not. Is the business taking the right precautions? Are they maintaining social distancing? Are they wearing masks? Are they wearing gloves? If they're in a manufacturing environment, are they cleaning off the fork truck and sanitizing it before different people are coming in? So are they taking the right steps going forward? I talked to an OSHA representative yesterday, and they're not going to be real harsh on that because there's so much going on with it. So it's really going to be the companies to make those decisions, whether they're going to put them down as recordable or not. Of course, if somebody has to go to the hospital within 24 hours, then you have to notify OSHA of that. But if someone comes down with the coronavirus, it's doubtful that they will go to the hospital within 24 hours. They'll probably nurse it at home first.
Yeah, I had just seen an article about that, about some of the legal community starting to get ahead of what might possibly be on the horizon for situations just like that. So I know I've helped a couple of different companies actually connect with each other to talk through, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? If you have questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me. We do have a couple of companies that have been extremely helpful in helping out some of their peers. I've really been surprised and pleased to see that cooperation between a lot of the manufacturing companies in Alamance County working together and trying to help each other out. Again, I think the face coverings, trying to secure some of those things now that they're more recommended, that has definitely been a challenge. We have a lot of parts of face masks that are made in Alamance County, but not full-on masks, other than some people making, you know, 1 and 2-twosies at their house in the evenings. So, still trying to work on that. So always, you can reach out to me. There are a lot of different websites being developed right now for different sources for things like that, especially within the state. Trying to get some things more locally developed. So please feel free to reach out to me later if you have questions about acquiring supplies or things like that. I know a lot of people are working from home, as we can tell from several of the backgrounds that are actually on video. Hal, I know you have helped me a few times with some tips about working from home and Zoom calls, especially. This is a new technology for probably, I would guess, at least half on this call. You know, it's learning how to do something new. You three want to take a shot at sharing, you know, how people have been adjusting to working from home? I think management of your employees as they're working from home can be a challenge as well. Charles, I saw you unmute, so you have something to share on that?
We're a little fortunate that we all are essential when we're all reporting to work here. However, my counterpart in Riverside, California, they have a stay-at-home order, and they've all of corporate is and their offices are working from home. So we planned ahead in that we made sure there was VPN set up in all the laptops to ensure you know, data is encrypted or whatnot, and we can send messages safely when you talk about Wi-Fi and connecting to unsecured sites. That's one thing we did and make before everyone was sent home with our IT department. Also, employee engagement has been the bigger one. How do we keep our employees that work from home engaged and yet still require their daily tasks to be completed, and how do we monitor that? So some have daily check-ins, some have weekly check-ins, and then we've you know, with corporate and those that working from home have that virtual happy hour and have some games and some, you know, some tasks and really some challenges and competition as starting to thrive. You know, I saw one Zoom call that had the best hat, and the best hat got, you know, $25 gift card, gift card sent to them. So stuff like that is kind of just re-engaging the environment where we're just on video now. So how do you maintain interaction without being in person, right? So just different things like that that we're doing here. and we're sending small gift baskets as well. Kind of just saying thank you, particularly those that are coming in with some anxiety, some even depression, isolation, and so as HR professionals, we get to hear that from this side. I'm not doing so well, or I'm having some challenges just being by myself if they're at home, and so we're being very conscientious about those individuals and really sending out some thank you gift baskets or a gift on our behalf, or kind of just making sure that we're paying attention to the emotional quotient, if you will, and making sure they're with us regardless of physical interaction, right? So those are some key things. And then the other one, Zoom allows us to do funniest backgrounds, or provide some backgrounds on our own. So we've had some challenges on what's the funniest background. Obviously, keeping it G-rated and very work friendly. But having the funniest background, that's always been fun, and kind of speaking in a different dialect or a different tone. Making the meetings, today we'll speak French, or today we'll speak in Spanish, or attempt to. So just different ways and avenues to still have an interaction with the employee, bringing a smile to people's faces, and considering the times. It's not just COVID, it is now isolation. It can also be depression. It could also be anxiety. So there's different emotional quotients that we have to make sure we're addressing and looking to.
And I think just even outside of the business realm, it has been funny and interesting for me to see on the social media aspect how many people are getting together for Zoom conferencing as a social media or just a social aspect of it. And they're doing really funny things with Zoom too, right? So like, Tiger King, for example, one of my friends hosted a Tiger King themed Zoom conference call, and everybody dressed up as different people. So I agree, just the funny aspects, things that you can bring to kind of lighten up or assist with people who aren't used to working from home, and now all of a sudden they're being forced to work or asked to work from home, or need to work from home, and they're just not used to that environment, and they're not able to get out. And how do we help those individuals still feel connected and have fun?
I agree with Charles and Brindle. The most important thing is stay connected with your people, because if we're all working from home and we need that connection with our workforce. My wife mentioned the other day, she misses the hallway conversations, and the Zoom meetings are good, but we tend not to do the casual conversations in the Zoom meeting. And whenever I have one, I like to start it off with casual conversation, just like any normal meeting does when you sit around the conference table before you get down to business. Because the Zoom meetings, there is a lot less chit chat, and they can be more stressful. To add from working from home, some things that we found effective to be working from home is to maintain your routine. You have a routine, or you had a routine when you went in the office. I would say if anybody ever called me at 7:23, I could tell them exactly what I was doing at 7:23 every day. Well, you need to maintain your routine working from home, of what time you get up, what time you start your day, close your day into the day. Don't leave it open the whole time. Make yourself an office. If you don't have the luxury of a home office, set up a card table, or use something that's nice, right height. Don't use your coffee table and be hunched over your coffee table all day. Have something that's good too. Don't be afraid to take breaks. We take breaks when we're in the work office. We go down the hall and we talk to people. Get up, get a glass of water. Do the laundry, empty the dishwasher. These are things you can do now. Play with the dog. Take advantage of this time. I mean, when is the last time you've been able to take the dog for a walk during lunch? Embrace that. Won't be able to do this again. So enjoy some of this time when you're home, and take advantage of it. Treat treat it as much like you can. And I've also seen, like with the commute, people don't have the commute anymore. So kind of use your walk to the office as the time to get your frame of mind right before you start the workday.
Thank you. So we have had one question come up. Someone asked, I've been contacted by 2 HR directors whose employees are asking about hazard pay. Can anyone address that? There's one company that is not providing hazard pay right now, but that question is starting to come up and may continue as North Carolina may be getting more cases, maybe not. Anyone address that?
I guess you've got to look at your policy. And I don't, if it's not in your policy, then you might need to meet with your managers and decide, you know, how you want to address that. I don't think there's any law that addresses whether you need to pay hazard pay or not.
Okay. So case by case basis, refer to the policy.
No, I do think it's a really great thing that some of the companies, and that is one thing that I've been very surprised with, is there have been a tremendous number of companies in our county and quite a few of my own clients who have stepped up and done that on their own. You know, we heard that Sheets paid their employees $3 extra an hour to do that. So that's just one example. So that's been something that I've been surprised with, but, you know, thankful to see as well.
Right. I know Walmart distribution is doing something similar. They've really bumped up both pay, doing some bonuses, and back to your comments, Charles, really working on their employee engagement, because you do have people that are dealing with so many challenges at home, maybe have their kids at home, which can be any number of, you know, from an infant up to, I've got 18 and 20-year-olds at home, which they have their own challenges and stresses bringing into the workplace as well. So, you know, working on that employer engagement and making sure that your employees are doing okay. I've had a lot of companies talk about, you know, revising and reminding their employees that they have employee assistance programs and to use those as part of their benefit package, that resource is available. Had one other question come up. Are organizations successful in deferring monthly insurance premiums without compromising benefit status?
I can answer that. When somebody is out on leave, whether that's FMLA and they're still employed, they still have to pay their benefits during that time. Before this COVID-19, what we would do when I was at Glen Raven is you had a letter and you specified exactly what they had to pay, when they had to pay it, and they had to continue doing that to continue their benefits. With COVID-19, I am seeing some companies pick up the tab where they are paying for their employees' benefits. There are some other companies that are deferring that tab, and what they're doing is they're saying, we will cover this while you're on furlough, but then when you get back, we're going to hold you responsible. You're going to need to pay these premiums, and some of them are prorating them over the rest of the year, so they don't have to pay the premiums all at once. They can be balanced out through the end of the year. So there are some options, but those premiums will need to continue to be paid. I'm not an insurance person, but I would think they're going to want to be paid. So that's different ways you can handle that.
So Hal, I know you and I talked about this yesterday about opportunities during this time. You know, the new normal that a lot of companies are looking at, and an opportunity to restructure employees, to reevaluate, to look at how your current staffing is going. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I can, and not to frighten anybody, but business today is not as normal. And then when we come back to the new normal, some businesses are going to ramp up faster than others, just based on what the business is. and managers can see this as an opportunity. How do we want to value add where our managers are? How do we want to structure this? Some companies may be fat at this point and may use this as an opportunity. People on furlough delay them coming back, or may not bring some back. I mean, that's going to be a reality of this. We saw that in 2008 with the recession, where people were let go and people were not brought back as aggressively as they were let go. So this is very much an opportunity for businesses to evaluate their business and to look at every position throughout the business and see if it continues to be a value add.
So I've also had a lot of questions about unemployment on both sides, from both individuals and from the companies. I know they had some changes that were talked about last Friday, and I believe went into place on Monday for working on attached claims. If anyone has any questions about that process, please put them in the group chat or message me directly. I know, Hal, you're getting called out a lot. We did talk yesterday afternoon quite a bit. There's actually an app called Do Not Pay app that was featured both on the Today Show and I believe Fast Company magazine, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
But kind of a resource if you are having some of your employees that you did have to lay off, if they're contacting you about being frustrated about the process and not being able to get through. That is one other resource that you can refer them to. And I should have had the link handy. I'll see if I can dig it up and send it in the chat in just a minute. But it basically will, almost like a robocall. You put in your information and it continues to call that number and help you get through. Kind of amazing hearing how technology can evolve and take care of some of those things automatically.
And I personally have not tried that, but I've had the frustrations of some of the people that I used to work with that have to go through unemployment, and they've gotten up early, they've gotten up at 3 in the morning, and they still cannot get through, and they need their money. So it's this very encouraging that there's perhaps another avenue that people can be successful filing for unemployment.
Right.
Yeah, Sherm just put out a statistic that 5.2 million people have filed for new unemployment for the week ending of April the 11th, making it a total of 22 million unemployment claims since March 15th.
It's crazy to even try to wrap your head around numbers like that. Yeah. Well, we have not had, one other, now we're having questions. As soon as I was getting ready to say we weren't having many questions come through. So one question based on what Hal is saying, employers need to check with their insurance carriers as to how they can cover or not cover individuals if they utilize furlough layoffs. So that is something, definitely check with your carrier to make sure you're doing things correctly. One other question, I know I have helped this company with a couple of things, but there are definitely people out there that are looking for jobs right now. Sharing any ideas about how to connect with those who are newly in the job market. Are most people who are filing for unemployment holding off on looking for new positions? So that definitely is a concern. If someone has been laid off and they're going to file for unemployment plus the $600 supplement that they will be getting, that may potentially be more than they're making at their job. So they may not immediately be looking for work. Brindle, would you like to?
I would love to take this question. Okay. We are seeing unprecedented unemployment claims, as we just mentioned. And I have, at least with our staffing agency, our staffing firm, we have positions that need to be filled. We have we do have some clients that have done some massive layoffs, and then on the other hand, and some of these clients are having to do their first layoff in 20 years. They're not even used to fathoming the thought of having to do a layoff. So we've got that spectrum, and then we have the other spectrum of companies like Walmart, et cetera, that are just really needing employees to kind of meet up with the demand of everything that's going on. And so there are openings in this county, and we have quite a few of them that need to be filled. Unfortunately, we are not seeing hardly any applicants coming through responding to any of the positions that we have. I can't speak about other agencies, but as far as the ones that we have, we're just not seeing it. And I don't know if that is a combination of the fact that they're being told to stay at home, and so they're staying at home and they're just not feeling comfortable applying for any positions, because then they feel like they're going to have to get out and do essential work, which would put them at risk, their families at risk. Or if it's like you said, Andrea, maybe they're potentially getting more or expect to get more from the unemployment aspect than what they were bringing home on a weekly basis before, and that's keeping them from applying. So I know some of our clients are having this issue. We are definitely seeing this trend. I do not know how long that trend will last after we come back and have that new normal, and it is a concern.
And I'm sure the child care and the schools being closed may be a part of that also. If someone can collect unemployment and be at home and not have to worry about what to do with their child if they did get a new job. So that has got to play into this a little bit right now also. I'm happy to talk with Reagan after the fact about what role the chamber might be able to play in kind of helping boost out to, especially our social media. We've had a lot more followers in the last 5 weeks. I'm not going to spout off numbers. Kelly Roberts and Reagan probably can spout those off the top of their head, but we have a lot of individuals in the community that are now following the chamber, and can maybe try to be part of that voice to reach out to some people that are newly unemployed but not actively looking, and try and get that message out that there are companies that are hiring right now.
I will say on the flip side to that though, I think that, once the concern and the fear is gone and people want to begin going back to work, and I feel like we are going to get hit hard from both sides. I think that the companies are going to be revamping, and they're going to need a lot of people very quickly, and we're going to see a lot of people looking for employment back in like 08 and 09, but rather than it just being from an applicant standpoint, we're going to also have it hit us from a client standpoint and a company manufacturing warehouse standpoint all at the same time. And it could potentially be a little overwhelming.
Yes. Yes.
Let me talk about furloughs a little bit, since that came up. Just so people know, if a company decides to put an associate on furlough, that person is still with the company, but they're not supposed to work. If they are exempt from overtime and they answer one phone call or one email, the company is obligated to pay them for the week. The government looks at that as a zero tolerance policy. A question has come up: if the person is on furlough, can they go get another job? Absolutely, they can go get another job. They can go work for another company, unless the company that furloughed them has a contract with them that they cannot go work with another company. So that's just something to be aware of. If you're a non-exempt associate, then you're paid for the time off. So I just wanted to make a few comments on furloughs, because that's new terms for some people and not something that they've been working with before.
Right, and I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that are confused by that, but there are definitely some people that are hiring on a temporary basis, like Walmart and Lidl, that are seeing such a push in groceries right now, and especially perishable goods, and then that may level off, in 6 weeks or something, when hopefully this levels off a little bit.
Exactly. And companies can also choose to do salary reductions. There's no law against that. They can also cut people's hours, anything they can do to reduce salaries or pay to stay in business. And you want to document that. And if anybody needs some letters from a documentation standpoint, I have resources for that.
All right, thank you, Hal.
Andrea, may I share something in
Yes.
response to Lori's comment about access to technology and internet? There is an initiative going on in Alamance County to provide equal access for citizens. And so the chamber will try to access that information and how they're connecting individuals to technology and internet and distribute that through our Facebook page and some of our other communications so that you all can share that out to people that you may know that has limited access.
Right, yeah, that definitely is a problem with the libraries being closed, and then with the NC Works Career Center, that's definitely somewhere where that was the only place some people could apply for a job, and those are not available right now. Peter said that the library is providing mobile Wi-Fi hotspots, which that is great, huge benefit. Still have to have a computer to access that, or a phone or a tablet or something. But yeah, Reagan will try to get that out and share to the group. IVARs can source PPEs arriving, I think, late April, early May. So if you have a question or have a need about that, be happy to connect you with Corbin. IVARs.
Andrea, there was a question earlier following a comment I think that Brindle made about jobs that are coming available. Are there age restrictions for the positions that, Brindle, that you were speaking about earlier? One of the attendees got a son 18 years old. Are there age challenges to putting people in potentially hazardous environments, such as possible exposure to COVID?
Age restrictions is 18 and above.
I like Walter's question that he just asked. Did you see that one?
I just reading it. What are some appropriate talking points when beginning staff back onto payroll through the SBA PPE? Walter, do you want to unmute and ask that question? I don't know if I completely.
Yeah, just as we begin, I know a lot of us have applied for the SBA loan. We've recently received it, and looking for some appropriate talking points, because we'll be bringing staff back onto the payroll for this 8-week period, and wanting to make sure that we appropriately communicate to our staff what that would mean during this 8-week period and what it might mean at the end of it if things aren't back.
Okay.
I would have to do some research on that. I don't have an answer for that.
I think just from a staffing standpoint, I think just a little bit of transparency of this is a very uncertain time frame for all businesses and all employers. And that your hope is that that individual would be there maybe long term. But there is some uncertainty with this new normal that we are all facing. And there are no guarantees with any employment that they may have.
Because we'll be bringing back a number of staff, particularly part-time staff, back at their average hours per week at their regular rates during this period, and we'll be giving them some work to do from home. We only have we may only have about a half a dozen essential employees through our feeding program and some other essential work we have. So I want to make sure that our messaging back, we're just not paying them to do nothing at home. There are some things that our supervisors will be having them do from home. We may be asking some of them to return to the facility for some of this essential work, and that will be based on the volunteer if they feel comfortable doing that. But I just wanted to make sure, because I'm putting together a letter right now back to those employees, and I want to make sure I speak appropriately and about the situation and bring them back on. and what to expect.
I think I would just add some language about key deliverables and accountability, making sure they understand that there will be weekly assignments or tasks that they will be monitored. There's just some level of accountability in that, especially working from home, and that what those key deliverables are. As always, just going back to smart objectives, and maybe if in this time, some of our objectives and performance reviews have gone to the wayside. Maybe going back to those performance reviews and revisiting those objectives and tagging those objectives back to that letter and some key deliverables while they're at home.
Yeah, I think communication, and back to Brendel's comment about being transparent, making sure that employees understand that you're learning through this as well, making sure they know what their expectations are, and then back to Charles's comment about making sure they stay engaged and connected and motivated, because this is not normal for any of us.
Right.
So I think that the questions have kind of wound down a little.
I'm sorry, Andrea. I do have a question.
Okay.
I have a question, if I may. I was on an earlier Zoom conference this morning with some folks around the state who were talking about the incremental starting back up phase that we're on the front edge of experiencing, I hope. But with that comes all kinds of new challenges, one of which is we spoke earlier about this. Let's say that you've done all you can do as a workplace to sanitize and to prep and establish protocols for your folks to come back in and work safely, but then not so much that someone contracts COVID, but perhaps gets it again, or it happens, or it comes back. The extent to which the employer is liable for that was a topic of conversation this morning. And I know you all aren't lawyers, and I'm not asking you to be one, but is that something that you would anticipate companies having to maybe consult with their legal advisors about how to manage potential liabilities with presenting a workplace that's going to be safe for people to enter and work in? And the second part of that question, and maybe a second thing altogether, was someone was saying, watch out for entities that are coming in promising to do something special or unique to sanitize your facility when they really aren't doing that at all. That's another thing that there's this kind of scam going on out there about that as well. I see Lori Seiler with on the call, and I know her business probably has all kinds of challenges, this being another one, but and Lori may want to chime in about that, but there are entities out there that are presenting themselves as being able to have a specialty service to sanitize facilities, and when they really aren't doing that. And if you do that thinking, if you engage as an employer to get those kind of services and something happens, are you liable?
Well, Mac, to address your first call, those of us in the HR world know, unfortunately, anybody can sue you over anything, whether they are right or wrong. And you're going to have to lawyer up, and you're going to have to defend it, and you may be perfectly right, but you may have to pay money and get it settled. I've not seen our workers' comp lawyers advertise that they can defend you for COVID-19. I see it coming. So you raise a good question, and I don't know how we can prevent that other than that we take all the positive measures, that we are social when we come back to work, that we are social distancing, we are wearing masks if appropriate, we are cleansing surfaces, everything that we can, so without a lawsuit were to rear its ugly head, we can be defended. And as Charles and Brendel both know, you've got to document all this. So if you're coming back, you're going to need some new policies and procedures in place on how you are going to social distance, how you are going to sanitize on a regular basis. You're going to need documentation that you are sanitizing on a regular basis. Those of you in manufacturing are familiar with the fork truck check. That's something you do every day. You make sure that the lights work and that the blades are in good shape and so on and so forth. You may want to add to that checklist that you did a disinfection of the fork truck and you have it documented, you have it initialed, you have it signed, you have it dated. So then if you are being challenged on that, you have documentation, but that doesn't prevent you from being sued and having to spend money, but it does lessen that. Charles, I see you shaking your head, so why don't you chime in on that too?
I mean, first, that's firsthand experience here, where we have to document our response. We have detailed response plans in place as to if someone were to call me right now as to, you know, they've tested positive. We have to respond, and what is that action plan? Who is our subcontractor for sanitizing these areas? You know, what areas are assigned, or even taking pictures. We're taking pictures of our safety protocols, or, you know, everyone's social distancing. We have tape on our floors every 6 feet, you know, and we're everything that we are doing, we have documented to ensure that we've done the best we can per CDC guidelines. And that's all we can do. And to Hal's point, that's all you can do, because at some point someone will find a way to, or a loophole, and find a way to sue the company or sue an individual. So my advice is just to make sure we have updated records, to maintain a documentation, pictures of what you are actually doing, and you know, when we train our team members, we make sure there's a signature page attached to that. That yes, you have signed that you've been trained to social distance. You know, you've been trained to sanitize or to wash your hands X amount of times, or to wash the door handles. And we do this on a consistent basis, on a weekly basis. We do that here. We just did that last night for our night shift. And even though it's repetitive, it's you know, the best we can do. And you know, documenting that, and hopefully, you know, crossing our fingers that it doesn't, someone doesn't take advantage of that.
Yeah, I know yesterday I talked with a couple of companies that were looking into doing temperature checks. I know that CAI has some information on their website about how to do that, all the precautions, all the documentation that you need to make sure that you're doing it appropriately and not sharing that health information of someone's temperature with other people that don't need to see that. And talking about that, CAI, if you are not aware of their COVID resource page, that is an extremely helpful site I've referred many people to. I'm going to try and post it to everyone. They also have calls Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8, and they're allowing those to be open to any North Carolina employer, not just their members. I've sent that link in the chat box. A lot of the things that we've talked about today are on that site in more detail. And again, the calls on Monday, Wednesday, Friday can address some of those questions as well. One last thing, Lori Seiler with Seiler Services did comment about some fogging companies that are promoting about cleaning and sanitizing, but everything that they have done to research how to clean and sanitize properly for COVID-19 is cleaning and wiping everything down first and making sure that the products they're using are in fact being used the right way, and the cleaning companies are taking the time to use them the right way so that you are getting what you're paying for the cleaning services. And we do have a couple of cleaning services that are members of the chamber, so we're happy to connect you with those. Yes, and Lori commented also they're providing disinfecting for all of their clients right now. So if you have any specific questions, she's a great resource to get in touch with about you know, what to do, what they're doing on a consistent basis, different products they're using, things like that. So if there are not any other questions, we'll kind of wrap up the call. If you have questions later on, please feel free to use info@alamancechamber.com, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Or you can email Mac or Reagan and I directly. It's our first name @alamancechamber.com, and we'll be happy to help.
Andrea, may I make a thank you for this, and thank the speakers. If I may make a comment before we get away. Again, the Chamber's trying to do these things twice a week. Next week, on Monday, we have Heidi Norwick with the United Way. While we've been trying to focus on business-related issues in these calls for the last several weeks, there's a human services side to all of this that's going on as well. As part of our community, and Heidi's going to be on the call to talk to us about those needs and the resources that are in place to manage human service needs. And so we're grateful for Heidi for coming on Monday. And then on Thursday, we've asked Alan Gant to be our speaker, talking about leadership through change and crisis like we're in now. He's had that happen with him, with his business way back in the day when all the textile jobs were leaving and the textile industry had to reinvent itself. And so I'm sure Alan will have a lot of interesting comment to make about leadership through change and crisis. And so those are our two calls for Heidi on Monday and Alan on Thursday. And we hope that you all and others will join these calls. And we thank you for your time this morning as well. And again, Andrea, if I may, on behalf of all of us at the Chamber, I want to thank Hal and Charles and Brindle for what they're doing and for their time this morning on helping us discuss these issues, these HR issues that are so important to not only managing the circumstances today, but what's going to be going on as we come back into this quote unquote new normal.
Yes, thank you, Hal and Charles and Brindle. We're happy to share your contact information. If anyone wants to get in contact with them directly as a follow-up question, email me and I'll be happy to share that back out. I was going to try to multitask and get that in the chat box. That did not happen. Apologies for that. But appreciate all three of you taking your time this morning to share with our members. I think we've got a few non-members on here as well. We appreciate you joining us as well. We will record or post the recording later on our website. We do have a COVID-19 resource page where we have all of our previous business briefing recordings, as well as links to various resources and other organizations that are providing help right now. So we appreciate everyone and thank you for your time this morning.
Absolutely. Andrea, can I make one more announcement, a membership announcement, and maybe you can slide that info into the chat box while I do this if you want. But in addition to the all business briefings next week, we are hosting a member opportunity on Tuesday, April 21st at 3 p.m. Tim Riddle with Discover Blind Spots will be with us to offer a webinar on communication matters. Lots of things are changing for our businesses, including the way that we're communicating right now. So it's going to be a great learning opportunity, and it'll be Tuesday, April 21st at 3 p.m. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Right, bye.